Hybrid 3 was actually conceived as well was a commissioned work for another ballet with Richard Siegel. Like all three hybrids actually are being basically born out of the process composing for ballet. And this one was quite interesting topic because it was referring to precision walking in a Japanese context, Japanese culture. So there is the topic of basically the piece was called Ballet of Disobedience. So it was basically structured around the topic of order and disorder, or when you start basically misbehave. What is very interesting in the context of ballet, because ballet is a quite, let's say, ruled out, it's a quite ruled out context as well. Like when you learn ballet, you have all these kind of positions, and so my starting point was actually as well some texts from Japanese no plays, and what is not featured in this kind of album, the being a part, a strong part, text base of a Japanese no play. But this I left out, and as well, it's a little bit more, let's say, it's not one-to-one the ballet, the hybrid number 2. That's the reason it's called hybrid as well. Otherwise, I would call it the same name as the ballet, because when I compose for ballet, then I start very early. I start actually much before the rehearsal starting. I mostly talk to the choreographer, and this case was Richard, and we are more or less trying to frame the idea of that evening and trying to create a certain kind of atmosphere. Sometimes I just have a photograph or some kind of inspirational sequence of a movie, or could be anything actually. And what I do is actually, the longest process is actually finding the right atmosphere for the sound. So this takes quite long. And in this process, I'm not just recording the tracks what may be going to be used later. I'm recording a whole body of work. Like sometimes there are like 20 pieces or something. So, but since I'm starting very early, I have quite a long period of time. So out of this material, what I'm composing, I create more or less the CD or let's say the body of work, what it's later released on a CD or on a vinyl album or digitally. After the ballet, I sit down again and review all the tracks and basically create them in a way that they are work as a standalone as well. So this is not one-to-one the ballet, but it's basically the working process was inspired from the ballet. Yeah. I think for this specific work, I was writing a lot of keywords. What I'm interested in, this kind of specific topic of this polarity of order and disorder. And when you work with sound, I think there is quite a lot of tools, specific in electronic music. You have a lot of tools where you basically can involve random processes or unexpected moments, what is a little bit my topic for a long period of time already in sound, to basically look for sounds who are not necessarily created from a musical instrument. They are more created from maybe something what you would call a misbehavior or like a failure or something like an error, right? Yeah. So to create disorder is a part of the process already, but then of course you order it. So I mean, I think it's a part of the creative process in general that you have always this kind of two polarities with you. So I think it's quite easy to reflect on that, I think, yeah. It's not really a set of questions what I'm trying to questioning myself before I start working. Actually, I'm more or less creating a vision what kind of atmosphere I want to create. And for this, I sometimes write down things or make drawings or do collect a bunch of photographs who are kind of express this kind of atmospheric situation, so that I'm not kind of losing this kind of context of this atmosphere. I think it's an interesting situation to have a listening room in a museum, because if you think about how to present the work, like when you have a recording done, I think a studio situation where you record and where it's a kind of equal setup, of course. But most of the time, what you do is you present something in a live context, what is completely different with an audience. But some of these pieces, specifically Hybrid 2, 1, 2, and 3, they are not necessarily designed to get performed. They are actually, I think they are really well working in a context of a perfect listening room or listening situation. What gives me a lot of, let's say, it gives me a lot of options as well. Like we could design the room in the right space. I mean, I can improve the acoustics. There's the right spot to sit. And you have maybe the best environment to listen to this kind of sound. What I think as well, sound as a sculptural work makes completely sense in the museum. And in this case, of course, I mean, we're using equipment what is quite expensive and not easy to achieve for somebody to listen at home, for instance. I think it's a perfect location, a museum, to have such a space, and that the people listen in the perfect environment on the best possible acoustic situation to this kind of sound pieces. Then they start really making sense. Most of the people are today probably listening music through streaming and headphones, sometimes even mobile devices or computer speakers. Of course, this is not the right place for this kind of sound work. So, in a way, we're filling the gap or the missing spot where you have the perfect situation to listen to sound, next to maybe a concert venue.